Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle Show, where we love to inspire and educate the community to live more healthily, more balanced and feeling more fulfilled in life. And today for our first guest we have Michael Clark, who's a medical intuitive, and today he's talking to us about naturally healing medical conditions. So Michael, can you tell us a bit more about that?
Before I go into about naturally healing medical conditions, I feel it's very important to understand the 5 critical energies and the 6 stages of disease. So when I talk about the 5 critical energies, these energies are within the body and they're outside the body as well. And these critical energies are nuclear energy, electrical energy, radiant energy, chemical energy, and mechanical energy. Now, we have different diseases and disorders based on where the imbalance is in the energies in our system and around us, in our environment as well. And what happens is, if we get too much of an energy, it starts to accumulate in what I call its home within the body, and then it can move. This is the first stage of disease, right? And then the second stage is where that energy starts to put pressure on that organ or that part of the body, and then it moves into a spread. This is where it starts to spread through the body, and then it starts to isolate into weak areas of the body, within the body. And that's what I call the isolation stage. That's stage 4 in the disease process. Stage 5 is the manifestation stage, and this is where most people start to feel and see symptoms, yeah? And this is when it's really isolated into a tissue within the body and really starting to take over that tissue, and that's why we start to see the symptoms. And then the 6th stage, which is the destruction stage and the disease stage, is when the energy starts to really take over the whole body and starts to, really take control of the whole body. So the reason I want to share those energies and those processes and stages of disease is because it's very important to understand how you can heal medical conditions naturally. Because when you understand the stage of disease that you're at, you are then able to meet the energy where it is at in the stage of disease and move it back through the layers and through the stages of disease to bring the body and the being of the person back into balance and back into alignment.
Okay, could you, for our viewers, could you give us some examples of how you've seen changes in people with medical diseases?
Definitely. So I know of a lady who had breast cancer, right? So that'd be the 6th stage of disease. Now, breast cancer is related to excess nuclear energy in the body, yeah? And what this lady did, she went out and did simple natural process to support bringing that nuclear energy and the whole energies in the body back into balance, and then also to step out of the disease stage and back to a place of alignment and back to a place of being in tune with herself. Now, all she simply did was change nutrition. So she changed what she was putting into her body. She changed her environment. So she was working in a very busy environment. She stepped out of that work environment. She changed what she was doing daily, so she wasn't pushing all the time. She started to relax and gave herself more time. And the last thing she did was she sat beside a tree each day and literally sat there with her eyes closed and said, "I love you cells, I love you cells, I love you cells." Did that for an hour each day. Within 3 months, she was able to move beyond what was diagnosed as stage 4 breast cancer to the point where people were couldn't believe it had happened. They seen it and believed it was a miracle.
Just for our viewers, you mentioned nuclear stage. Could you explain what the nuclear part of it means for them?
So nuclear is a nuclear energy, yeah? So we've got 5 different energies in the body, yeah? A nuclear energy, if we want to make it as simple, is basically space in the body. So nuclear energy is the space that we have in our body, and what happened is she had too much nuclear energy, which created so much space in her body, which was what created the breast cancer.
So if you were to give us, if you have some tips for our viewers, what would your top tip be for them for today?
So the top tip for me would be first to understand your body, because no one knows your body like you do. So allow yourself to understand your body and just listen in and connect with your body. Yeah, when you listen in and connect to your body, it can create massive shifts for yourself, but you can also understand your body and yourself better to then be able to heal medical conditions naturally because no one understands or knows your body like you know your body.
How would you explain that, tuning into your body and reading those signs?
For me, the way to do that, I feel, would be just to find a quiet space by yourself, relax, and just simply close your eyes, connect into your body, and just ask your body, what do you need to tell me now? What do you need to share with me now? And just listen into those answers.
So is that about, that's a great deal about trusting, isn't it? Trusting that first thing that comes. And I guess there's a bit of people trusting themselves to have the answer. Would you say that's where that comes from?
It's all about trust in self. And as part of that is, if you sit with your body and ask it the questions, you're always going to get an answer. And what I suggest is just don't judge that answer, just always have confidence and write that answer down or listen to that answer. Even if it feels really weird and awkward and different, just give it a go, because I guarantee your body knows.
Thank you, Michael. And for more information on Michael Clark and naturally healing medical conditions, then please go to our website healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Welcome back, and we have George Gentilis, our somatic psychotherapist, and today he's talking about healing trauma. What is trauma, George?
Yeah, big topic. Trauma is basically an event that happens in your life where you felt like you, even for a second, perceived, even if it wasn't real, that you could have died. If there's one split second you think, I could die here, that's the shock. That's the trauma. It's just entered your body. Well, your body, your whole nervous system, your whole physical body, organs, everything, you felt like you could actually die for 1 second. And that could happen with a physical trauma. Car accidents are a typical one. You see the car coming at you, you brace. For 1 split second, your brain thinks, I could die here. And the car hits, you don't die. And then you're left with this shock in the body that sometimes comes out naturally, sometimes doesn't. And if it doesn't, if it stays in your body, it leads to what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where months later you're still rehashing the event. It's like it happened yesterday, and your body can't release it. You can't relax, or you feel heavy, or you start to feel anxious or depressed for no reason, and that's a trauma. That's a physical trauma, so we get a high impact in the body. Then you've got developmental trauma, which is normally the childhood stuff, where you got neglected or abandoned as a child, or abused physically. Sexual abuse is a big one, sadly. But we've got great methods now for healing a lot of that, that's the exciting part, rather than just taking a pill, like I mentioned last time. And sometimes trauma can be something gradual that happens in childhood, where a certain parent puts you down constantly, and it doesn't look like anything much, but 20 years later you're like, weighed down by all this negative thinking, and it's an emotional trauma. That's a developmental emotional abuse, basically, especially if that parent was alcoholic or they had a mental illness, and you had to even support them. A lot of times as a child you have to grow up real quick to support them because they can't even look after you. That's very traumatic, and that can lead to a lot of issues. But it gets stored in your body, and that's the fantastic thing that we've discovered in the last 15, 20 years. It's not just a thinking thing. You can go and talk to someone, talk to a counsellor. That's the best thing to do after a particular event. If something has just happened to you, say a car accident, and you're shaken up by it, or you've had an operation that's shook you up, or because surgery is cutting the person's open, when you're getting cut open, the body thinks it's going to die, because there's a knife coming at it. So that's normal trauma. But if months go by and you're still weighed down by it, and you've all of a sudden all these different things start to happen in your life, reactions, you start getting sick easier, you're not sleeping properly. Normally we can trace that back to a particular event, and you go back to when you didn't have those issues. Normally, almost always, there'll be some major event that happened at that time, Could be a major divorce, a major breakup. That can be traumatic. When your partner you've loved all of a sudden turns on you, very traumatic.
Would an example be like somebody has something physical, actual feeling, or a body motion, or a leg having problems? Or would that be signs of?
Yes.
Would that be part?
Definitely.
Trauma?
Yeah. Especially if you start getting muscle tensions. Neck is a common one. Legs, psoas muscle, that fight-flight response that we talk about, that lower brain in your body, the sensory-motor brain, that needs to release that fight-flight response. So if you think you're in danger, even just for a split second, and you perceive, oh, I might die here, your body wants to save itself. And how do you save yourself? You either run from the event or you fight. And your body's going to want to do one or two of those, or both. If you don't let it happen at the time, because we've got a great intellect, we can block it off. When people feel a trauma, they'll hold their breath, tense up their muscles, and that keeps it in. If you watch an animal in the wild, they won't keep it in. They'll go away and tremble and shake, and it'll come out. But we don't do that as human beings. We're civilized, and it's great that we've got this intellect, which the animal kingdom doesn't have. But the negative side of that intellect is that we can lock down this fight-flight response. So really what you want to do is allow your body to move and let out that fight-flight response. And it comes out as trembling, shaking, twitches, jolts, which is why it's very important to go to the gym. You've got to go. That's the fight response when you do resistance training or boxing or lifting dumbbells. You need that exercise where your body can feel like it's pushing, and then your nervous system feels like, now I'm safe. I can push away, and your body gets a chance to save itself, basically. Your body hasn't saved itself. You may have intellectually, you may have rationalised, the event happened in the past, and you'll have friends around you telling you get over it, and you think, I can't I'm trying to get over it, but you've got all this weight in your body, and what it is uncompleted fight-flight response. So going to the gym is critical. Everyone should be going to the gym and doing something physical. Walking helps, little short bursts of runs. Interval training is great. Even for 30 seconds on a stationary bike, go flat out, and your nervous system can release that flight response, and then it relaxes, and then you sleep like a baby, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, very important.
Right.
Very important.
And what would it be a bit of advice for our viewers about if they did observe trauma or feel it for themselves?
Yes, if you've had a trauma, or even watching a movie on TV, a horror movie, and it traumatised you, you've got to come back to your body, because not only is that fight-flight response blocked off, but people dissociate. So people leave their body and they feel like they're living up here or living to the side of the body if it's a real high-impact problem, high-impact accident, or if you had a lot of bullying at school. You really want to start to come back into your body again. And a good way of that is just to pat your body, to feel it, breathe under your hand, and go out around your whole body, and just start to get a sense of, I'm back in my body again. And as you come back into it, you'll get little jolts, little twitches, little shakes. That's good. Right? That's not bad. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That's really good, because your nervous system's finally, that lower brain, is finally getting to, finally relax, shake, 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 relax, shake, 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 relax, and just recover. You get peace of mind comes back, and the weight lifts, because your nervous system isn't trying to run or fight. Very important.
Oh, well, that's wonderful, George. Thank you for sharing, and you'll be back with us another time, next time, I believe, and you'll be talking about how trauma shows up as anxiety.
How anxiety shows up, that dreaded stress in our lives, Yep.
And if you'd like to know more about George and healing trauma, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Welcome back, and we're here again with Steve Hall, our holistic coach. More of the series on living a life of value and meaning. And today the topic is how to turn on the most powerful part of yourself you're not aware of. So Steve, over to you. How do we tune into our power?
Yes, thank you, Linda. It's a great question. And I suppose the question in everyone's mind might be, what is that power you're talking about to start off with? You know, if I'm unaware of it, where has it been and what is it? What does it look like? And it's what I've learned along the journey is our mind, you know, who we are. It's consciousness, but it's also a subconscious part of ourselves. And the conscious is only like less than 20% of the power of our mind. Most of it is subconscious. So it's, if you imagine it like a captain of a ship, you know, he's the conscious part. He can see where the ship needs to go. He's aware of everything. All his senses are giving him the information. And the subconscious is all the crew underneath, you know, in the bowels of the ship, you know, they're running the motors and steering the ship and everything. And they operate on communication from the captain to know what to do. Everything the captain says, they take it as an order and they just do what they're told. And that's their job. But it's really the crew underneath that is the power of the ship that, you know, gets it all running and takes it where it wants to go. So that's the analogy of the most powerful part within us is our subconscious. But because it's subconscious, we're not aware of it. And so how do we get that to work with us instead of against us? Because a lot of us are in lives where we may feel like we're stuck. We don't have any choice in where the ship's going, for example. And it's like, well, how do we change direction? How can we change course if it's, you know, it seems to be taking us a direction we're not wanting to be in? And that's what the most powerful part of us is.
Yes, because as people said, many people do feel they don't have a choice in life. So how would you say, what would you say to that? I know you said that you take charge of the ship. When they feel like they haven't got a choice, now what would you say to that?
Look, really great question, because you get stuck in life and it can seem like life and death. It's really important, but you think there's nothing you can do. The situation means I've got no choice. I'm stuck. And that's when you become a victim. You know, I'm powerless to change my life. And that's a terrible place to be in. So I really sympathise or empathise with people who have that feeling. I know what that's like. But it's one thing that I learnt through my journey is there is always a choice. And it's not the choice that was scaring me so much as the consequences of if I took a choice. I think we've really only got 3 choices in life, and we can accept something, we can change it, or we can let it go. But we might not like the outcome we're imagining out of any of those choices. So sometimes we do nothing and we think, no, we've got no choice. We've got to ride this out and wait for something to change, which is sometimes it's not going to happen until you make a choice. So that's what I'm talking about. The choice is there, and it's more about how can I learn to exercise those choices safely and take some control in the choice itself.
So the advice from that, you mentioned letting go. What is letting go? How do we do that?
Well, letting go is, you know, we've got a past and we've got a future and we've got a now that we're living in. And quite often we can get stuck in the past, in the story of the past, because once it's past, it is past. It really only exists in our mind as a bunch of neural pathways and some energy. That's all that's left over, but it's real inside our mind. And that can control, you know, what we do from here on in. So letting it go is deep breath, a little bit of mindfulness, but it's like identifying that happened to me how many years ago now? Yeah, it was bad, but it's gone now, you know. It's like breathe that in. It's not hurting me now. We have a tendency to take those situations and emotions that happen then and we apply it to everything that could happen in the future. So it's blanket across everything, and so we feel stuck. We've got those emotions, we feel them, they feel very real, but they're holding us in place, and that's a case of a memory from the past affecting our future. So it's like, let it go, acknowledge it's there, and yeah, it was hard, but you're past that now, you've learned from it. And the situation in the future is different to the situation in the past. And you're now got the experience from the past, you can use that too to take yourself more safely into the future. But it's like, let it go. Just go, that's gone. It's not serving me any longer to be controlled by that.
And no doubt there's a whole bunch of tools and tips that can be
There
that can be
is, yeah.
used to help that
Absolutely.
release or that letting go.
Yeah, there's some simple ones though that you can use right now, and that's our subconscious. Like, got to remember, they're the ship's crew, right? They operate on orders. So everything that our conscious, that's what I'm pointing to my brain here, that's where I think it is. Whenever it's self-critical of the stuff I do, and that was a lot in the past, you know, like I was very judgmental about myself. But my subconscious takes all that in. And so the trick to turning the ship and letting something go is having positive language. You know, especially as an Australian, I used to criticise myself in a joking way, thinking, oh, that's all right, I'm just mucking about, oh, I'm an idiot. My subconscious is going, he's an idiot. Let's connect into a reality where he is one. And it listens to us, and it takes me into more situations like that. But if I go, oh, I can say I've made a mistake there, well, I'll fail forwards. I'll learn from that, and I'll use that learning to go, I'm not an idiot, I've just learned something. Well, let's change the language that we're saying all the time. So I would say if you want to start, you know, turning your ship, using your subconscious, turning your power on, catch yourself how many times during your day are you consciously aware that you've been critical of yourself, and how many times have you been complimentary or compassionate to yourself. And just keep going until the second one is higher than the first one. And that's something everyone can do.
Fantastic, Steve. Thank you so much. And for more on Steve Hall and living a life of value and meaning, specifically those fears that come up for us and our relationship with them, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And for now, we'll say bye-bye until next week.